How far does the ball travel horizontally from when it's kicked until it hits the ground? So we want to go from 0 all the way to where it hits over here. Thoughts? Why 40? And why is it 20 times 2? Awesome, kind of a co-answer there. What is the height of the ball when it is 10 meters horizontally from the kicker? What is the height when it is 10 meters from the kicker? Okay, can I just take this and divide by 2? That would only if it was a linear function. However, this isn't linear, so we can't do that. How did we do the one yesterday for the first example? Yeah, we went to our calculator and put the number where D is. So negative 0.025, 10 minus 20 squared, plus 10.
Like the function of h?
Yep. I don't want to hit enter because I don't want to ruin the surprise. Offer? 7.5. Confirmation? Would an opposing player positioned under the path of the ball at 34 meters from the kicker be able to head the ball? If you're not a soccer player, what does it mean to head the ball? To hit it with your head. So really they're asking, is the person going to be tall enough? So we're at 34-ish. Person standing here. Woo, naked soccer player. How can we figure out if this person's going to be able to head the ball? Do the same thing. We need to find out the distance or the vertical distance of the height. So I'm just going to recall. I'm going to take out 10. What am I going to put in its place? 34. $5.1 what now? 5.1 meters. Would the person probably be able to jump up and head the ball at 5 meters? Well, I'm about 1.5 meters tall. Don't mock me. It's not my fault. It's bad genetics. I'm about 1.5 meters tall. Would I be able to jump up to 5 meters? Probably not. No. The ball is at 5.1 meters. Like feet to ground, 2 meters? I don't even know if my dog can do that. She jumps a lot. Mutts. A big one and a little one. A crabby one and a friendly one. Questions on the first type? The only way they'll be non-calculators if the values are really, really, really simple. Otherwise, they're going to be calculator questions. I'm going to put my booklet back together. If you're left-brained, you may want to follow me. This was page 1 with the fries on it. Page 2 had all the vocabulary words on it. Page 3 had example number 3 from the vocabulary. This is where I'm putting that page that we took out. So using the calculator. It says using the calculator, which you can't see. Then it's got the 3 graphs. Then 2 graphs. Then I'm putting this last page in. Then I'm going to staple it all back together. Because remember, I split my booklet to have the calculator part right beside it. And some of you were like, and I said, that's fine. I'm just explaining what I'm doing. I'm going to go into dimension problems. And the first one I do, you're going to be like, not too sure. You're going to be like, I don't know if I could do that. That looks a little hard. After I do all 3 examples, you're going to see that they're the same every single time. There's only 2 steps that are different. So the first one, if your thumb's to the side, I'm okay with that. Just bear with me going through 2 and 3, and then you should see they're very, very, very similar. But when you first see them, they can be a little bit scary. Read to read dimension number 1. What's it about? A fence. And most of these are about fences. They're all going to have some kind of dimension. It's why they're called dimension problem. What I need to know this is that there's 40 meters of fencing. I want to enclose a rectangle. And I want to know what dimensions will give the largest area. So in fact, I have 40 meters, that's it. I want to enclose a rectangle, and I want to know what are the dimensions that give the largest area. For the first one I go through, I'm going to number the steps so you can see what I'm doing when you come to the next example or the homework question. Like, is there a big, like, blank spot in the middle? Or is that just me? Like, where the lines are kind of disappearing? But there's no, oh. That looks really dark now. Is that better or worse? Easier on the eyes. Okay, so you like this one better? I can focus it, that's all. Focus. Better. Better. I'm going to start with a picture just for the picture people so you can see what's happening here. We know a rectangle has two dimensions, length and width. I'm going to call them x and y for no particular reason. I just like x, and y kind of goes with x. Did it just brighten up without me doing anything? It's really weird. But like because I'm on the side, so sometimes it's up, but it looks like there's like a blank spot. You're okay? You're happy? You can see? Okay. My 40, what it has to do with is the perimeter. That's how much fencing I have to go around the outside of the rectangle, which we know is equal to the perimeter. Perimeter of any kind of rectangle is going to be 2 lengths plus 2 widths equals 40. I'm going to leave that momentarily, and I'm going to come to the other side of my page, and what we're trying to find is about the area. So I'm going to start with formula for area of a rectangle, which we know is just length times width. And I'm going to put in the variables I chose, which were x and y. Could I have stuck with length and width? Sure. It's just we're used to parabolas having x and y. That's why I chose to do it in x and y. What I need to find is what's the max of this parabola, because what I'm looking for is the largest area, and largest is the same as max. The problem is right now I have 2 variables, and I can only have x on the right-hand side. So I'm going to use this here to get an expression for y, and then I'm going to take y out and put in what it's equal to. So follow my logic here. I want to get this y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the 2x over. So I'm going to say that 2y is negative 2x plus 40. And then to get y by itself, I'm going to divide each term by 2. So I'm going to get that y equals negative x plus 20. Still with me? Okay, so all I did was just play around with the perimeter formula, just made it look different. The reason for that is I'm going to take this negative x plus 20, and I'm going to put him in place of y. Do you remember grade 10? I know it's been a long time for some of you. The very last unit you did systems of equations, and you can solve systems using elimination, substitution, and graphing. Do those kind of sound familiar? What I'm doing here is substitution. I have 2 different equations, 2 different variables. I'm substituting in the same expression for the variable. So I'm going to leave a because it represents area. I'm going to leave x because I like x. All I'm going to do is take out y and put in y what it's equal to, which is negative x plus 20. Still with me? I don't like these brackets, so I'm going to just distribute this x to get rid of it and then just do a little bit of simplifying. So x times negative x is negative x squared, and 20 times x is negative 20x. Now, what kind of equation do I have? It's quadratic. What your brain is going to want to do is solve, because we just spent a whole unit solving quadratics. It's not what we want to do for these particular problems. What we're trying to find is the largest area, so that's not the value of x, that's the max min. So what we want to do is find the max min. Okay, your brain's going to want to start to solve. You need to abort that. We need to find the max min. How do we find the max min of any parabola? Well, we need the vertex. How do we get the vertex of a parabola in this form? Complete the square. These are all going to revolve around completing the square. So you have to really resist trying to solve and put in your head completing the square for this unit. Okay, I've got this negative in front, so this is the equivalent of a negative 1, so I've got to factor him out front. So what I'm doing in essence is dividing each term by negative 1. So negative x squared divided by negative 1 equals x squared. And 20x divided by negative 1, negative 20x. And I'm going to leave my space that I'm going to fill in a second. How do I get the magic number? 20 divided by 2 squared. So 20 divided by 2, 10 squared, 100. I need to balance him, so I need to minus 100, except I need to multiply by the negative 1 in the front. Still with me? Finishing off, I've got that negative that's out front. I'm going to have a binomial squared. How do I figure out what's in the binomial when I factor this? Negative 20 divided by 2, so I get x minus 10. And then when I simplify the constant, I've got negative 100 times negative 1 plus 100. What's the vertex? Still with me? The first number is whatever we defined as x. In terms of our rectangle, what did I define as x? The length. So this is going to be the length of this particular rectangle. The second number gives you the maximum area. And in terms of dimension problems, there's kind of a little self-check built in here because these have to be positive. Could I have a length of negative 10? Could I have an area of negative 100? So for these ones, which won't be true when we do the next type, but for dimension problems, these both need to be positive. So you might want to just make yourself a note. If you get a negative here, you've done something wrong. You've missed dividing by a negative, or you factored wrong or something. For dimension problems, these have to be positive. All we need to do now is answer the question. Sometimes it's going to say what is the maximum area. Sometimes it's going to say what are the dimensions. Sometimes it's going to ask for both. This particular question, what did it ask for? Which dimensions? So we already have the length. We know that that's equal to 10 meters. And we have the area, but the question didn't ask for it. What dimension do I not have? The y. I'm going to come right down to this last step right here. How is that going to help find me y? Because we know what x is. We just found out x is negative and then 10 to sub it in. And negative 10 plus 20 is 10. Nope. You just want to make sure your answer is really clear, because if you see these tend to have work on both sides of the page, and if you are right-brained and you work all over the page, it's hard for me to find your final answer. So somewhere near the bottom, we just want to be really clear. The dimensions are 10 meters by 10 meters. And I like to box it so that I can find it, but just make sure your answer is really clear what the question is asking. They're all going to work exactly the same way. What's going to differ is the perimeter, so the amount of fencing you have, and you're going to see in a second we're going to start to change up the number of sides. Sometimes we might not have 4 sides, we might have 5, we might have 6, we might have more. That's the only thing that's going to change, is the number of sides and the value of the amount of fencing. Questions? So step number 1, what I did is I got the perimeter. Step number 2, I wrote a formula for the area. Step number 3 is I came back to the left-hand side and I isolated y. I got y by itself. Step 4 is I substituted that value for y back onto the right. So I went from the left to the right to the left to the right, if you notice that. Step number 5 in here is completing the square. And 6 was just stating the final answers of the question. Mm-hmm. No, because 3 went right here. So 3 was right here, substituting this in gave us 4. Then I just simplified, completed the squared, got the vertex and stuff we normally do, and I answered the question. Again, I know at first this is a lot because you've got kind of 2 different equations going on. You're going to see in the next examples they're the same every time. I'm just going to switch up the numbers. It's the only thing that's going to be different. Read number 2. What do I need to know? This time it's 80 meters of fencing. He's using his barn as one side, and I want to know what dimensions, largest area. What is different from example 2 than example 1? He's using the barn, so he doesn't need fence on that side. So how many sides does he have to fence? 3, and the total amount of fencing he has is 80. That's the only thing that's different. Again, I draw a diagram because I'm visual and it helps me figure out what's going on. If you don't need a diagram, don't draw a diagram. I'm going to do from a top view, so imagine you're in an airplane looking down. What would this barn look like? What shape would it be when you look down on something? It's a rectangle, so here's his barn. And then fencing is going somewhere outside the rectangle. Assuming the chickens are outside. I guess they could be inside, but that would be weird. Chickens need to be outside to me. Yeah, why? Well, I don't know. That's why I'm not a farmer right here, because I don't know. Oh, that makes me sad. That makes me sad. I'm going to call one of the dimensions x and one of the dimensions y. It doesn't matter what I call what. I just tend to do length as x. I need to get an equation for the perimeter. So I know that the perimeter equals 80. All I need to do is figure out how many x's and how many y's. So I don't have 2 and 2 this time. I have 2 y's. How many x's do I have? Just 1 x, and that's going to equal 80. Then I come over to the right, and I need an expression for the area of a rectangle. Area is length times width. I've defined them as x and y. What do I need to do now? I need to get y out. So this is where I come back to the left, and I get an expression for y. First thing I'm going to do is take away the x. Then I'm going to divide by 2. So that gives me negative a half x plus 40. If you like decimals better, you can put negative 0.5x plus 40, whatever your brain likes better. Okay, this negative a half plus 40 is going to come in. Y is going to come out. So I'm leaving the x that was already there. And then in brackets, I'm putting negative a half x plus 40. What did we do next in the last example? Distributed, collected like terms, simplified it up. X times negative a half x. And x times 40. Questions so far? The only thing that has changed is I have 80 instead of 40, and I have 3 sides as opposed to 4 sides. That's the only thing that's different in this question than the last. Okay, I got an A value. What do I have to do with it? Factor him out. Be careful here. Your brain's going to want to put minus 20. But that's dividing by 2. That's not dividing by a half. So if we want to do it the long way off to the side, I have 40 over 1 divided by negative a half. How do we divide fractions? Multiply by the reciprocal. 40 times negative 2. Negative 80x. If you don't believe me, check it on your calculator. Dividing by the half is the same as multiplying by 2. Okay, what number goes in the blank? Offer of 1,600. Ethan confirms that. Everyone else looks a little confused. We're good, 1,600. How do I balance off 1,600? Except If you forgot to multiply by this -1/2, what's going to happen is your area is going to be negative, and what did I tell you about areas? Have to be positive, so that would mean you did something wrong, which would be that -1/2. Finishing it off, -1/2, something squared. X minus 40 is the offer. Confirm. Number on the outside. 800. Confirm. No confirm. Yes, confirm. Vertex. And what's the little built-in check? Have to be positive because we're dealing with area and length and width. We just need to answer the question, what does it want to know? The area, the length, the width, the dimensions, what's going on here? It wants the dimensions. How do we get the dimensions from this? Okay, so I know x is 40. What do I not know yet? How do I find it? Go right back over to the left-hand side, sub it in. Offer of 20. Sounds confirmed. Very, very last step. What are they? Was it meters? Yep. Thanks, Jill. Questions so far? Do you see a similarity between those two questions? Like humor me and at least say yes? Number 3, read to read. Lots of words in this one. What's important? That's it? You probably want the number in there. You notice it's the only number. And what are we looking for? What shape should I start by drawing? Sorry? I just did the first part. I haven't got to that yet. You're just a little bit ahead of me. So it says rectangular, I drew a rectangle. What's this part about the extra fence? So he wants to divide it in half by putting up another fence. Where is this fence going? Does it have to be directly in the middle? No. Could it be lengthwise? Could it be widthwise? Does it matter? No, just divide it in half. Doesn't matter what way. It could. Could be wherever you want. Does it have to be in half? No, just 2 sections. Doesn't matter where it is. Doesn't matter. But it, to the lefties, yes. It can't be diagonal because the question says parallel to one of the sides. Oh, okay. I could like put it way over here and have a little skinny section, but I'm not. Where do we start? Okay. I'm attempting to draw a cow, but it's not going well. Moo. And then I was going to draw a chicken, but that's just not going to go well either. There's a really bad drawn cow. It's the skinniest cow ever. Okay, now what? So where did we start in the last two? What was the first thing we did? I started with just the perimeter. If we want to stick to the same, I'll call the length x with y again. Doesn't matter, you can split them. We just need to figure out how many sides do we have. How many lengths do we have? 2. How many widths do I have? 3. That's the only thing that's different from the last example. So I know that 3y plus 1, 2, 3. I'll even highlight them. Sorry? I just haven't finished this off yet. You told me to erase it. I erased it and put it in the middle. Yeah. This is parallel. Like more left brain than me. Seriously, can't deal. Everybody. I was fine with it being off center. It was you guys. They were like, mm-mm. Are we good now? Gotcha. No, just the middle one. Gotcha. So we got 3 y's. How many x's do we have? What does that have to equal? Now what? I'm just writing down what you're saying, by the way, so you probably want to confirm it as we're going along. Okay? Now what? James? I'm not sharing my salary with you, I'm sorry. I can see lots of people are already seeing the patterns, which is good. That's why you have calculators. We have an offer of negative 300x. Confirmed. Magic number. $20,500 is the offer. 22,500. Just wanting to confirm 22,500. How do we balance him? 500, stupid whiteout. What's our little check right now? Are they positive? And we're done. There, end of the question. No, we gotta actually solve the problem. We don't got y. That is true. How do we get y? Finally, just give the answers with your unit so it's really clear where to find.